and yet welcome to another webinar about an exam case, which this time is about a class 2 lady, and she's about 40 years of age according to her date of birth, and she complains about some protrusion, and what I think when she says protrusion, that it probably is overjet, okay, because her profile does not look so bad. So I assume it's something like a little bit skeletal class 2, probably some overjet issues. So we need to thoroughly address this one and see what we can do, all kinds of options. And this time we'll make a sort of distinction between orthodontic solution, dental facial, and perhaps also a surgical one. So let's cover all the ranges, the whole range in orthodontic services that we can offer to our patient. Before we can think about anything of treatment plans and everything, I think we should go through all the issues that we have in this case. And of course, chief complaint is one of them, which is protrusion. Now, you can simply draw a line from her nose to her chin, and then you see that it actually is not so bad about this protrusion. She has a straight profile. Perhaps her chin is a little bit in a backward position. Okay, so what we can do is simply screenshot this profile, and I assume this is her habitual head positioning, and then I'll post that into, let's do it here. So I remove that picture, and then I'll just paste her into this image here, okay? And then I'll draw the line, which is actually going through subnasal, and you see that her upper lip is slightly in front of the line, which is good, okay? I think it should be about, I think in women, about 3 millimeters or so. I'm not quite sure about the standard here, but her chin is a little bit more retrusive. So if we can move her chin forward like about 4 or 5 millimeters, I think her profile would actually look very good. Okay, so there's maybe something like a surgical solution here. If that can be done to sort of prevent any low incisor protrusion in a class 2 case. Okay, so there's one thing that we keep in mind. Next picture is about her smile, and it looks like her midline is off a little bit. Okay, so again, if I do a screenshot and I paste this one into the program, I already done that, of course, then you see that her midline is a little bit off, not too bad, about 1 millimeter or so. Okay, so if I make this picture a little bit bigger, you see her midline is off just a little bit. I think I'll just manage her eyes quite like this so that it looks horizontal, and perhaps her nose is off a little bit as well. Okay, slightly to the left, I would say. But okay, this is a little bit tricky to say. But I see a slight midline shift, and that's something that we have to measure in the model measurement. So that's important to keep in mind. Okay, so midline, and if we look to the upper midline, let's look at the lower midline. And the lower midline, the picture is not so good, so I'm sorry about that, but I think the lower midline, that's this one here. Okay, so upper midline is slightly to the right side, and you see her lower midline is even more to the right. So there's something like asymmetry in this case. So we have a class 2 patient with, I would say, a lower asymmetry because the upper is not so bad. So lower asymmetry, and if there's low asymmetry, there must be a cause for that. So let's have a look at the models. And it looks like she's missing one premolar on the lower right. Okay, it can be a 4, it can be a 5. I'm not sure about that one. I think the size looks about equal to the 5. So I think this may be a 4 that's missing. It's most likely that this is a 4. Okay, doesn't really matter. The upper arch shows like being okay with all the teeth present, and of course a little bit irregularities, but that's something that we can sort out with ortho. Okay, so we have an asymmetry case with a missing lower 5, and then the question with missing teeth is, what do we do with that? Are we going to add it back, or are we going to extract some others? And if we're going to extract some others, which one can we actually extract? Okay, so let's figure out how we can do this one. Anything else? Well, let's have a look at her dentition. She looks to me like, well, a little bit mixed class 1, class 2-ish. Okay, K9 says class 2, about 1 millimeter on the right, and on the left, it's something similar, 1-2 millimeters class 2 with molars class 1. Okay, so 1 to 2 millimeters class 2 on the patient's left side. So we're looking at a dental class 2 case, division 1 with some protrusion, and I made it 1 millimeter right, 1 millimeter left, no functional shift. Okay, I think this is just dental drift, what we're looking at. A bite is slightly deep, 51%, and lower anterior thickness. I couldn't quite easily see what it was, but it looks quite thin to me actually. So it looks like thin lower gingival tissue. So I'll change that to thin. Cuspids are thin. Incisors are well formed. Curves P moderate. Arch form is ovoid, and there's some crowding in the case. Okay, with my model measurement, I measure like about 9 to 10 millimeters due to the missing premolar, plus some additional crowding in other parts of the lower arch. Upper discrepancy almost 0, or actually 0, with no cross bites. Okay, so we have one missing tooth here, and also the wisdom teeth are marked as missing. She's mesiofacial actually, with her midline slightly off to the patient's right side. Come on, switch to the next page. Okay, appears to be a little bit slow at the moment, but her midline is off to the right with about 1 millimeter, and everything else looks about right. Okay, so nothing particular there. Okay, there he goes. Classification, tab 2. Straight profile, upper midline to the right, lips okay, sublabial fold okay, nasolabial angle okay. All right, so non-extraction, nasolabial angle, non-extraction, profile straight, non-extraction. Okay, lip competence is adequate, that's okay, non-extraction. So everything says non-extraction until we get at the model measurement, which will be next. Okay, so go to dental cat, lateral ceph. Okay, nothing there. We had some double structures there, so I took all the upper dental skeletal structures that I actually that I was drawing. Okay, you see it's running like crazy there. Somehow a little bit slow in the evening, so lateral ceph, nothing special. Okay, model measurement is a little bit more of an issue. Lateral ceph. Yes, please. Okay, you see there's some overjet actually in this patient. That's what she complains about. Not really protrusion. If we look at the numbers, then the lower incisors show some protrusion. A measure relative to mandibular plane about 100 degrees, 101 degrees, and upper 1 to his end looks about good. Okay, so it's not the upper incisor which is proclined, but the lower incisor plus the skeletal and dental class 2 which is present makes it look like if the patient actually means overjet instead of protrusion. So I take it that she complains about overjet, which she says it's too much. Other numbers, FMA 26, that's about right. Average to me, and A and B 4.5, that's almost skeletal class 2, it's about the edge. Skeletal class 1, skeletal class 2. Okay, anything else? Lower 1 and upper 1, and the interincisor angle is 116. So we can improve a little bit on the interincisor angle if that's doable in this case. All right, so we focus on that as well when we look at the torque templates. So then model analysis, start model measurement, okay, upper dental midline slightly to the patient's right side. So I just twisted the wire a little bit. You see that there's a little bit of molar asymmetry in the case. Not much, about 1 or 2 millimeters. And I think that's a mild, maybe mild mesial rotation of that 1/6. Lower arch is actually the problem. All right, see that there's a missing tooth. And since there's a missing tooth, we must actually think about what can we do with that. One option is adding it back, and that's what I did in this start model measurement, adding back the missing tooth. Adding back will open the space. It will move the lower midline to the patient's left side. And then we have to deal a little bit with that molar asymmetry of about 1 to 2 to 3 millimeters. I think it's difficult to actually distalize the molar unless you do that with skeletal anchorage, and it's no issue. But just by opening the space for an extra tooth, I don't think the molar will actually distalize on the right. Okay, so we have to focus a little bit on this one and see what we can do. Upper model measurement, no issue. It looks like there's maybe a mild molar width discrepancy, 47 and 50. Oh, that's not too bad. That's good. Okay, so not really crossbite issues here. Okay, so that's something that we can tick off from the problem list if that would be on it. I made all the VTOs using custom mode, so I'll talk you through that to see what I did. The first one that I did is, of course, the alignment VTO. Okay, adding back the tooth in this mild class 2 case shows actually quite nice overjet, but you see that low incisor is going to procline like crazy. And with thin gingival tissue, I don't think that's a good plan to do. Okay, I don't want to finish with all those recessions at the end of my ortho treatment. So I have to look at ways to limit my lower incisor advancement. Now, when I look at the teeth that could be a candidate for extraction, then I would actually choose in the upper arch the 5s because they look quite small. And since there's one premolar missing in the lower, I take it that the lower 5 is missing. It could be a lower 4 as well, but let's assume this is a 4. So I'd like to extract this 5, and then I can easily move that lower molar on the left forward to make symmetry with the one on the right. Okay, so if I extract this one, move it forward like a couple of millimeters, then I've got symmetry in the lower arch. Okay, that means that when I'm going to close the spaces, that all these teeth are actually going to be retracted, and that will move my midline to the patient's left, centering the lower dental midline to make it look good. On the upper, I think I'll have to reevaluate after alignment what it looks like. Perhaps my lower molar just rotates a little bit and correct it, and otherwise I have to fiddle about with some class 2 or class 3 elastics somewhere during the mechanical stage to make the upper midline look good. Okay, so that we would figure out that later. So let's go to the alignment VTO. That looks quite nice. So one of the options is to do non-extraction allow the lower incisor to go forward. It makes nice overjets that would probably satisfy the patient. Okay, to us, it's a little bit tricky because of the low incisor advancement. Okay, there's one thing that we did not correct here, and that's the patient's asymmetry. Okay, this is just alignment, adding back a tooth. So if we're going to look at the alignment where we're going to correct the asymmetry, then the overjet looks also nice. What did I do? I just simply corrected all the issues there, alignment plus asymmetry. Okay, I actually distalized the lower molar a little bit. I distalized the upper molar a little bit, and I made molar symmetry on the left, right, in upper and lower arch. Okay, and that made the picture look actually quite nice. The VTO is quite acceptable. Nice VTO where alignment and asymmetry is actually corrected. Okay, so here I've got a class 1 occlusion. I've got lower and upper midline centered in the patient's face, maybe a little bit less lower incisor advancement. The only thing is I have to distalize those molars, which is a little bit of an issue, okay, but with skeletal anchorage, that's doable, okay? So one of the options could be to do the case non-extraction. I'm a little bit scared about this lower thin gingival tissue, okay? So let's find another way to do that. I made another correction with some class 2 elastics because there's still some class 2 left in this case, which I did not get correct. Okay, so I advanced the low incisor a little bit, and this would then be my alignment, asymmetry correction, plus the class 2 correction. Okay, I've got a class 1 overjet. Perhaps if it's an issue, this overjet, you can also and always do some stripping in the lower to reduce or to increase the overjet if you want to. Okay, now other ways to actually deal with this low incisor advancement is to do some extractions. I did a upper 5, lower 5 extraction. On the model measurement, okay, so extraction upper, lower 5s. It's easier to correct the asymmetry if you do extraction because you can actually, in your mechanical stage, you can move teeth so that the teeth are actually moving in the right direction. And let's talk this through a little bit. Okay, I did a lower 5 extraction. So I moved the mesial of the 4-5 all the way back on the distal of the 4-5. So to SMART it means that the tooth is out. And on the other side, I left a small little bit between the two dots of mesial and distal to actually overcome this amount of asymmetry. Okay, so I can do it like this as well. I just move the mesial dot on the distal dot and then move the 3-6 forward just to make symmetry in the lower arch. Okay, that's exactly the same, but a little bit easier to understand. In the upper, I did also extraction of 5s due to the fact that we have very small premolars, and I corrected like modded anchorage to close the spaces. Okay, you see in the upper arch I've got symmetry now, and I've got symmetry in the lower arch. Okay, so let's look at the VTO that comes with this model measurement, and that's the upper 5, lower 5 extraction. That's this one here. You can see that I get some retraction, lower 5s, close the spaces. My lower incisor is going to retract a little bit. My upper incisor is also going to retract. My overjet looks not quite what I would expect from a class 1 case. So I added a few class 2 elastics to this VTO to improve actually my overjet. Okay, that looks quite nice. And I think this would be the orthodontic solution, upper 5 and lower 5 next to the non-extraction VTO. Okay, so the non-extraction VTO and the upper 5, lower 5 extraction would be orthodontic solution. Okay. Okay. So what about this this incisor then, okay? There's something I worry about because, when I do extractions and retract those incisors, I really would like to use lingual torque brackets. Okay, so if I selected this one as my treatment decision, I can then see what my brackets would actually do with these teeth. And actually wanted to select Lee brackets for the upper and lower incisors. That looks quite nice. I'll just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so it looks quite nice here. Lee brackets. You see retraction limits and Roth ideal is what we would like to have. But you can see my final tooth position, the upper incisor, that's about here. Okay, so it's with the retraction of the upper five, smothered anchorage, this is where I'm going to finish my upper incisor. That probably means that I'm going to have some skeletal resistance. Okay, in the lower, I'm going to finish at the starting position, and okay, what I can do is actually do this with Lee brackets also, but then I have to add a couple of millimeters of gable. Okay, so I actually move the retraction limit forward by adding 10-degree gables to the lower Lee brackets. Okay, you see that my lower incisor actually engaged against the lower lingual symphysis. That's cortical bone resistance. And I hope that this way I could actually create some spaces in the lower arch to protract the molars 1 or 2 millimeters. Okay, so that's a non-compliance type of treatment where skeletal resistance is going to assist me in positioning my molars. But then I needed some 10-degree gable to make that work. Okay, so I'm going to finish with my lower incisor like in the starting position. They were like 100 degrees to the mandibular plane, but starting position is always good as long as it adds to the goal of the treatment. So upper incisor is actually the problem here. So let's check that. Skeletal resistance. And you see with Lee brackets, I'm actually going to have to do a corticotomy. So that could be an upper lingual corticotomy if I really want to finish like that with Lee brackets, or if I do not want to do that with a corticotomy, I could then do with Roth brackets. Okay, so Roth brackets would then actually take away the skeletal resistance. In this case, I would of course finish with my upper incisors a little bit retroclined, but that's something that I had to discuss with the patient then. Okay, so that's one part of the explanation to the patient, that I'm going to finish with my incisor slightly retroclined. Should not be an issue. If I worry about that, I taper my archwise slightly somewhere in treatment to make the arch form in the upper slightly tapered. That would increase the upper incisor inclination to maybe a little one more aesthetical. Okay, perhaps add a little bit more class 2 elastics and you finish a little bit forward. But okay, that's all clinical. So this is one part of the solution. Upper 5, lower 5 extraction, and then do a Roth upper and a lingual torque lower, and then we add a 10-degree gable to finish exactly as planned by the VTO. Okay, I think that's doable. Does it affect the profile much? Not really. Okay, it looks like the upper lip goes slightly back. I think she could take it. Okay, so that's that. So there's one thing that worries me still, and that's the skeletal A and B. And of course, the upper incisor retraction with a Roth bracket, that's not one of my favorites. So if I can reduce the Roth upper, I could prevent the upper Roth. That means that when I'm going to use a lingual torque bracket, then I have to actually procline. I'm going to procline my upper size a little bit. Got a little bit more overjet that I have to sort out. Okay, so I've probably finished at the retraction limit. So let's just remove this retraction limit. Where's the retraction limit? I'm going to finish at the Roth ideal, so I'm going to finish here, and you can see the black tooth lower. That's why I'm going to finish with my low incisor. Makes a little bit more overjet with that Roth ideal type of inclination. Okay, if I could actually forward that with a surgical solution, then I'm going to actually sort that out. Okay, so let's talk about that one. I know that's not one of the okay, that's not what you're supposed to know yet, because we said that the solutions would have to be in module 1 and 2, and surgical solutions is 3. But you know, you can play with SmileStream. You don't have to select an surgical solution, but you should be able to make skeletal surgical VTOs. Okay, so what I do is I'm going to make a VTO where I actually do a pre-surgical ortho. Okay, so I do a pre-surgical ortho, and what I actually do is this. I'm going to say I'm going to do a pre-surgical ortho VTO, and that means I'm going to use this existing stance cephalometric, and I'm going to modify the start model measurement. And what I do is that the upper arch looks pretty much okay, so there's not much to do here. So I'd like to do an upper non-extraction arch, but in the lower I have to sort out this problem. And I can modify the lower model measurement to make it easy to myself to deal with the case and make the case symmetrical. Okay, so of course I remove the lower 5 on the right side because it's already out. Okay, and then I have to extract the 5 on the other side as well, and then make the case symmetrical. Okay, so this would be my pre-surgical ortho. Now I've got a lower arch which is symmetrical, and okay, I missed 2 lower premolars, but how bad is that? Okay, I create my VTO, and then the VTO says this, that it will just give you some overjet. Okay, you can measure this amount of overjet if you put on the grid. You can say, well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 millimeters of overjet that I would like to cover. If the surgeon is going to advance the mandible with about 5 millimeters, then it looks good. It looks okay here. It improves the profile. It advances the mandible. Okay, I've got nice overjet. We can sort out the vertical problem. The only thing is I finished with my molars in a class 3 bite. Well, how bad is that? I don't think that's very bad. Okay, so what I would like to do here is to create a surgical ceph with 5 millimeters of mandible advancement. So I'm going to the lateral ceph, and I'm going to copy the start ceph, and I'm going to advance the mandible with about 5 millimeters. That's what I did here. Okay, so 5 millimeters of advancement. When I switch on the grid, you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of advancement. And I corrected the lower lip position a little bit. And what I did is that I selected the low profile. It gives you this this green thingy here, and you can sort of rotate that. Okay, because the chin is going forward, but the lip is not going to follow all that. So I made a slight correction here. Here it looks 5, and in the lip it looks a little bit less. And then I'm going to use this ceph to make the VTO, referencing the model measurement that I made with a pre-surgical VTO. Okay, so I'm going to make a new one, and I do pre-surgical VTO using the existing mandibular advancement SAF together with the extraction of lower 5 where I did the pre-surgical VTO. Okay, so I'm going to use that one and I'm going to use this SAF. Actually, I modified the SAF with 5 millimeters. And then this is what the picture looks like. Overjet looks good. Molars look class 3. Profile looks really nice. So this could be the surgical solution. Okay, so we got actually 3 different services that we did. There's one corticotomy that we could add, and that could be a lower labial corticotomy actually as a alternative to mandibular advancement. So if the patient does not want to go through surgical, perhaps the patient would accept a lower labial corticotomy. And it's not very easy to do lower labials as you actually have to use some kind of an expander, but then in a forward, backwards direction, anterior, posterior direction to actually you do the cut here. I've done a few of them, not quite successful due to the fact that my expander plate came off. That was at the first patient. And the second patient had such strong lips that actually or strong mentalis muscle so that the bone did not go forward in this region and only in the incisors went forward. Okay, so actually what I did is more proclination. So I don't think that's a very easy type of treatment to do. But you can do one. Okay, so what you actually do is to add back the lower premolar, and then you actually are going to procline or actually protrude the teeth forward like a couple of millimeters. Okay, so I could do a VTO for that one. Yes, and do start copy lower labial corticotomy. Okay, and then I have to cover those 5 millimeters that I would otherwise do with a surgical solution. I will have to cover that with advancement. That's about this much. It's about 5 millimeters, and I have to actually adapt the bone around that. Okay, so I'm going to modify the bone. Okay, that's like this. This actually added the 5. Okay, and then I have to modify the model measurement a little bit, otherwise I get advancement plus advancement. It's more about this remodeling that I wanted to show. Okay, so in this case, I should reduce, in the model measurement, I should reduce the amount of crowding to almost 0, okay, to make it work. So I can do a VTO, and that VTO would then be lower labial corticotomy. And then I have to use this existing stuff and I have to modify that model measurement there. Okay. So I have to reduce the amount of crowning to 0. Otherwise I'm actually having twice the correction. Okay, so what can I do to make it work is to actually advance the lower arch wire slightly to make it look like 0. Okay, so if I'm going to advance the lower arch wire, then I just make my arch length discrepancy about 0. Okay, a little bit more. That's about it. Okay, and then I create the VTO. I hope it looks good. Okay, quite nice. You see the bone remodeling here as well. You see that the lower incisor actually stays in the initial position. I did not move the chin forward. I only moved the dental-alveolar bone forward with the teeth. Okay. You see, profile looks a little bit better. It's a good alternative to surgical correction, where the lower and the upper incisor actually stay in their positions. Um, I have to deal a little bit with that lower molar asymmetry. Okay, so I perhaps have to add a pin somewhere to retract the lower molars and gain symmetry there, because that was not done in this model measurement. Okay, so what I meant actually is this, is that here I do the lower labial plus the asymmetry correction. So that's that one, and I have to slightly modify that model measurement a little bit to make the case symmetrical in the lower arch, okay, because that part is missing from the equation. Lock arch wire and then deslice that molar to make it look good, okay. So this should be with the lower labial corticotomy. You see a slight change in the incisor position. Okay, so we have an upper lingual, a lower labial, we have lower mandibular advancement with a class 3 molar finish. We got two orthodontic solutions with non-extraction, but that's a little bit risky due to the fact that we have lower asymmetry and thin lower tissue. And we have the upper 5 and lower 5 extraction. And I think that should be more or less the option that you would have chosen in this case. It could have been upper 5s, lower 4s, upper 4s, lower 5s, something like that. As long as you make the case look good, do not retract the lower incisor too much and the upper incisor. Okay, the only issue with this extraction solution is that we have to choose a Rath bracket, or otherwise you have to do the corticotomy. Okay, so I think this is going to be the treatment decision video. I use this one in the RBT templates, and skeletal resistance looks okay with Rath. Okay, and low incisor looks good with a 10-degree gable on the lead brackets. So that's my treatment decision video, and from there we go to the treatment plans. Okay, so here we have the options. Allow low incisor advancement, plan number 33, and a dental class 2 case. Then we have the extraction solution, upper 5, lower 4, with the incisor, low incisor finishing at the starting position or near the starting position, and a dental class 2 case which is less than 4 millimeters. Patient was average vertical, FMA 26. Okay, so that's your, these are the both orthodontic solutions. Then we can add the maxillary lingual corticotomy or the lower labial corticotomy. And then we have to do like a rapid expansion. That's a little bit risky if you have only or you can do 4 to 4. Okay, with the missing 5, I would do 4 to 4. So I would consider that one as a lower mandibular corticotomy, and advance 4 to 4, and then you could add back a 5 on the other side. Okay, so you actually do a single-sided expansion because the other 5 is already there. Okay, so that's that one, and then we have the mandibular advancement with the class 3 molar finish. So this is going to be our treatment decision Okay, we're going to choose Roth brackets upper, lingual torque brackets lower plus 10 degree gable. No skeletal resistance in that case. Upper canines look about uprighted. So that means that we're going to use a Roth bracket for the upper and since we are going to finish near the starting position, we're going to do a non-extraction lower canine position bracket. Okay, LI or Roth NE for the lower. Then we're going to choose the brackets and bands. Upper will be tip distal. You don't need a cleat, but it comes either with a cleat or a sheet, so we have to choose one of them. Upper 7 bracket will be Roth. Then lower is going to slightly forward on the left side. We don't need cleats. Okay, so you could choose a class 2 elastic band, or we can change that later. Okay, let's choose Roth for now. And then do a lower PE bracket for the 7s. Maintain medium ovoid with a 51% deep bite position. Okay, so we copy that information to the IP appliance tab. We'll go to the IP appliance. Okay, so most of the information should be there because we copied that from the treatment plan tab. Having all the brackets there, Roth brackets upper, lingual torque brackets lower, and we're going to extract the 5s, not the 4s. Okay, so that's 5s upper and 5s lower. Okay, so this is how I would do it. So 5s upper, 5s lower. Okay, 8s are missing. Bands already selected, 4 bands. Malocclusion. Well, it wants to know about incisors and such, so they look pretty much okay, I think. Not really tapered or small. No, that looks good. So nothing to select here. Aesthetic will be like standard 51. Arch wires, we need keyhole loops upper lower. Okay, 2 of them, keyhole loop. Or you can do it with a keyhole loop or T-loop. Okay, and 1 for the lower. Medium ovoid, yes. Prescription. Okay, we want a class 2 elastic band on the patient's left side because that's the molar that's going to advance. So that's the 6 that is going to mesialize. So we're going to add that one. And we're going to actually use some class 2 elastic. So we choose class 2 elastic bands for the lower 6s. Okay. Summary. Sixes get bands, the 5s are missing, the 8s are missing. Tip distal on the upper molars, class 2 elastic bands on the lower molars, PE brackets on the lower 7s, standard Roth on the upper 7s, Roth brackets here, and lingual torque brackets on the lower incisors, NE brackets on canines, and a standard bracket on the lower 4s. Okay, and so now the only thing that you have to do is to load the treatment plan with screenshots, and then you're done. Okay, so we're going to edit the treatment plan, and then I usually add screenshots. Okay, and I'm going to delete what is not applicable to the plan. Is everything about about that. Okay, growth is not really important. Okay, then I made some VTOs, but not the distalization VTO. Okay, not the maximum anchorage VTO. So you could delete that. Non-extraction VTOs is not important. Not a growing patient. Okay. Bracket torque, Roth upper. Oh, where's it going now? Okay, and you change your treatment plan according to what we talked about to make the plan look good. Okay, so I think this is a nice case. You should not have missed the asymmetry in the lower arch. Upper arch is okay. I think we can sort out the 1-2 millimeters of midline shift. Okay. I think upper 5 and lower 5 would be a good solution. If you have something else, another combination, upper 4, lower 5s, that's fine. Okay. Make sure you do not retract the upper incisor too much. I think a non-extraction situation would be less favorable due to lower thin tissue. Okay, so that's about the other exam case. Now, if you'd like to ask some questions, then you can put something in the chat box or open your microphone. Jacques, can you come in?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Okay, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Great.
So I think this was a very nice exam case because it had a little bit of everything in it, especially about the aesthetical situation. We do not want to over retract the upper incisor. On the other hand, we'd like to sort out the asymmetry in this case. So I think I'm pretty sure there are many possible options and everybody can go different directions. But I think an extraction option should have been one of the treatment plans that would have given you a nice final result without too much bother. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that 100%.
Okay. Guys, any questions about this case?
They can put it on the WhatsApp group if they want to do that.
Okay.
Where's the group? There we go. Webinars. Don't see anybody typing. So everybody seems happy.
Okay, guys, are you still there? Are you live on the other side there?
Seems we've got lots of people logged in tonight, but nobody's got questions.
Okay.
Just open my chat box. Okay, nothing. Okay, so we've got an all good.
Okay, Stacy, thank you.
Andrew is typing.
Did you just on that question? Do you think? Did you think that this was an easy case or a difficult case? What do you think?
Let's get some records for terrible. Yes, that's that.
I think the model measurement was really nice. It was really nice and very sharp model measurement, or models actually. What is it? Was it like a scan or was it? I think it was a digital model.
It was
really
3D.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
they were nice. Well, it wasn't that bad. It was doable.
No, but it's I know what you mean, Stace. It's like bad, like in if you
like
like
blurry.
To, like this. You know, it's not easy to. You want like a enlargement on your screen, and it shows really blurred. Okay, I think this looks really nice. I mean, the models were of course, very sharp. Okay, but you see, what I mean with when I look at these models, it's when you look at the canines, it looks like 3-4 millimeters class 2 actually. Okay, but when you do your model analysis and your SAF analysis and then do the alignment VTO, the alignment VTO actually shows like almost like a class 1 case, right? Yeah, and I assume that when you do the model measurement and you're very accurate in where your dots go, then I trust more my VTO than my clinical impressions of the model measurement. Do you see it like that, Chuck, or how do you do that?
Yeah, yeah. I also do that. Also do it like that.
Yeah, so I
And
do.
then the pictures as well. And then you have to check the pictures of the height and the models also. And normally the models, if you articulate them, they are normally the better option.
Yeah, see, yeah, I agree with you about that one. So I do my model measurement, I make the alignment VTO, and then I say, okay, this looks like a class 2 case about 2-3 millimeters, and then sometimes I simply adjust my classification to that. Okay, so this is a very mild class 2 case actually, although on the models it says a little bit more. But then you don't get the nice VTOs if you would type here like 3 and 4 millimeters class 2 cuspid. Then your VTOs in the automatic mode would look terrible.
It look horrible, yeah.
Okay, so it's like playing a little bit with SmartStream, and that's why it's a very cool tool.
There was a question from Andrew. Says a bit is going off the topic. He asked, "Is there a template form in SmileStream somewhere to transfer a patient?" I don't really understand the question. To transfer a patient is that to send a patient to a other guy?
Is there a template for SmartStream somewhere to? I think so. That's what he means. No, I don't think so. There's no, but you can you can easily share in SmartStream and send to a SmartStream, another SmartStream member, if you'd like to. Yes, if you'd like to transfer the case, and in that case, that's why it's so important to actually write your treatment plan, so the other guy can see what you actually were intended to do about this case and how you would like to solve the problem. And that's why I write my way of thinking is what I write down in my like in my comments. So then the other guy that gets the records can then read your comments about the case, and then he understands your way of thinking. And that's why we need in the treatment plan also the other options, okay, what you were thinking, plans considered, okay, that's the plans that we talked, not just one, but all the other ones accompanied with VTO, so the other guys can see what you actually were thinking. And then it should be okay for everyone that gets a transfer patient by SmartStream to see what the intentions were of the initial dentist that was going to do the case. So I think, Andrew, that's more or less what you could do. Okay, so just you do the best workup and then simply share your SmartStream file with the other dentist. So that's what I would say.
Yes, actually asking in particular to transfer the information to a non-SmileStream guy. So that is not possible. Yeah. That's not possible, yeah.
I mean, could the other guy actually open a SmileStream account and then see the patient?
Yes, he can. He can open because he can open a free SmileStream account. The only thing is that he will not be able to use the dental care at all, but he can use anything else.
So yes, but he will see the VTOs, right?
Yes, he will see them. Yes.
Okay, so I think that's also doable. Okay, yeah. And the other thing is simply to print everything. Okay, so you go to the print icon, and then you just print a whole lot. Okay, so patient report, treatment plan, everything, summary of the treatment plan, and you put all the records, just print it. And because it's digital, okay, you don't have to really print it on paper, but you can sort of print it to a PDF file and then simply send the PDF file with all of the information in it. That could be the other solution then. So I think that's two options that you can do.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, I've got in my agenda that we have another webinar in about 2 weeks.
On the 19th.
Oh, it's gone. On the 19th, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what do we talk about?
Let's talk RBT.
RBT, okay. We'll do that. Okay. Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope it made sense and it actually perhaps a little bit clearer to you on how to use SmileStream. Okay. So see you guys in 2 weeks. Ciao.
Have a good evening.